the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. Well, I guess there's really only one thing to talk about: the murder in Minneapolis. Another milestone in the criminal fascist regime. So we'll spend most of our time on that, but I guess I feel the need. I don't want to let this go. First, let's talk about a little bit more that just incredible scene at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Thank God it's finally over. Man, that was a long week. Of course, it ended on Friday, and it ended with a bang, man. That so-called Board of Peace that the Orange Menace unveiled. It really is, I don't know, could it be more blatant? His delusions of grandeur? His thirst for world domination? I mean, I know we're not supposed to do Hitler comparisons, but come on. And I got to say, as I've been emphasizing recently, well, for quite a while now, he's too much of an idiot to come up with this stuff on his own. Yeah, he can have wild general ideas about how he'd like to be king of the world, of course. But to put together an organization like this and to draft a charter, he alone could never do this. Remember his famous campaign slogan, "I alone can fix this"? He alone can barely tie his shoes. It's the opposite of that. He alone can do nothing. But with the likes of Stephen Miller and Russell Vogt behind him, he can do a lot of damn damage. And now, in 2.0, he's taking his act on the road. Not only do they want to rule the United States with an iron hand, they truly have Hitler-esque ambitions. And by my reading of events, it looks like the Miller-Vogt regime is expanding into the Miller-Vogt, Witkoff, and Kushner regime, with real estate mogul Steve Witkoff and presidential son-in-law Jared Kushner becoming partners in the firm for the international side of the business. This Board of Peace is insane. Somebody had a pretty good post. Nothing says Board of Peace like having two founding members not show up to the signing ceremony because they would be arrested at the airport for war crimes. That, of course, accompanies a picture of Putin and Netanyahu, both members of the Board of Peace, and both indicted war criminals, according to the World Court. Yeah, this thing is nuts. The Board of Peace consists primarily of real estate developers and autocratic heads of state. No democracies to be found represented anywhere. He is the kingpin of the organization. It's drafted right into the charter. He alone, meaning, of course, the firm of Miller, Vogt, Witkoff, and Kushner, sets the agenda, defines the terms, has full and complete veto power, has the sole authority even to choose his own successor. So what do you call that? And of course, it goes well beyond Gaza. That was the origin story of this little playpen of world domination. But they made it very clear at the signing ceremony on the big stage in Davos, in front of the world, that we can, quote, do anything we want. And the plan, of course, for Gaza is to turn it into an ultra-modern playground for the rich of the world. Futuristic skyscrapers and beachfront property and resorts, and in the model of Dubai or the super cities in Qatar, his new favorite buddies on the world stage. So the firm of Miller, Vogt, Witkoff, and Kushner, I'm afraid, are going to be part of the story. I don't know. Could be for a while. Unless they faceplant, which is another absolute possibility. Let's just hope for that. The Orange Menace had another comment or post, I forget which, late in the week, about serving a fourth term. That's the way he's putting it now. Because, of course, 2020 was rigged in his addled brain, so he counts that as his third term. And, from an objective viewpoint, it felt like a third term. I know with all that's going on, it's hard to remember way back a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. But for the entire Biden administration, 2021 through 2024, the Orange Menace continued to dominate not only the news, but actual governing, politics, because Miller Vogt continued to rule the Republican Party. So everything that happened in Washington, everything that happened in the nation, was impacted far more by the Miller-Vogt regime than by Biden himself or the Democrats in Congress. Oh, don't let me go down that road. Forgive me, I'm sorry. So this new international firm, Miller-Vogt, Witkoff, and Kushner, I'm hoping will just wither away into the shadows of history. All of this ridiculousness will just be a series of bar trivia questions at some point. There'll be topics for shows on the History Channel. And that day can't come soon enough. All right, well, let's get to it here. The murder in Minneapolis. The fascist regime has struck again. Coming soon to your town, no doubt. Alex Pretty, an ICU nurse, 37-year-old man from Minneapolis, shot by Border Patrol, thousands of miles from the border. Several videos emerged over the day on Saturday. I've watched them all. So if you've just heard bits and pieces of this story, I'll try to fill you in as best I can. First of all, any legitimate law enforcement agency, all legitimate law enforcement agencies, have a policy for when an officer shoots a member of the public, whether the victim dies or survives. The officer, the shooter, is immediately identified, their gun is confiscated, and there is an investigation. As with any suspect, this person is assumed innocent until proven guilty. But there is an investigation. And you take this officer off the line. You put him at a desk, or you put him on paid suspension. There are 1,000 different agencies. I'm sure they all have nuances, but these basics are all the same. And there's a serious investigation, all angles, to determine if the shooting was justified, if it was lawful. But here, with ICE, CBP, Homeland Security, no such policy. No investigation. We've already seen their playbook with Renee Good a little over 2 weeks ago. So we haven't got an ID of the shooter as of this recording. No apprehension of the shooter or shooters, because there were several. I tried to count. I got up to 12 or 13. Reports are saying 10 shots. I don't know. But it's at least 10 shots. Not all from one gun. There were 6 agents surrounding the victim, and certainly more than one of them unloaded. The first shot put him down. All subsequent shots were fired into an incapacitated, if not already dead, victim. As in the Renee Good shooting, Homeland Security, CBP, ICE announced their conclusions before any investigation. They smeared the victim almost immediately, just like they did with Renee Good. Also following the playbook, they're not cooperating with local law enforcement. In fact, the federal agencies are openly impeding local police efforts. They literally blocked local cops from the crime scene, just like they did with Renee Good. In the case of Renee Good, they actually impeded local medics. They blocked them. They smeared the victim here immediately, made their conclusions without any investigation. Department of Homeland Security declares itself the only legitimate investigation, squeezing out not only state and local authorities, but even the FBI. Kristi Noem, apparently with the blessing of Attorney General Pam Bondi, has even shut out the FBI. In the murder of Alex Pretty, just like the murder of Renee Good, the murderers fled the scene. Now, all of this is just incredible. I mean, I know this much just by watching reruns of Dragnet, for God's sakes. That you secure the crime scene, you collect physical evidence, you question people involved, you question witnesses. None of this happened. Quite the opposite. They did nothing to preserve the crime scene. They did zero on-the-spot investigation, witness interviews. No, they fled. They jumped in their cars and they fled. Now, the good citizens of Minneapolis were there, as they have been now for months, giving witness. They attempted to hold the murderers. They literally had to use armored vehicles to get the hell out of there. They deployed chemical agents, tear gas, and that hexaclox, I forget what it's called, that military toxic chemical that they're using to escape the crowd. The nonviolent crowd, I will add, all they were doing was trying to hold murderers accountable. So they lied about Rene Good. They lied about Alex Preddy. Because once again, deja vu, we saw it with our own eyes. Several angles, several videos. Just like they're lying about little Liam Ramos, the 5-year-old boy, and his dad. All lies. Eyewitness accounts directly contradict the Fed's version of all three of these cases. So who are we to believe? Come on. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. Greg Bavino, the little Nazi twerp in his Nazi trench coat, got behind the podium and lied, said the shooting was justified. This was immediately. This was within, I think it was within an hour or less of the shooting. He opened his little statement, for some reason, by smearing an immigrant, claiming, I guess, I think that the attachment to this story was supposed to be that the agents, the officers that were supposedly attacked, were on their way to arrest this dangerous illegal immigrant. So he went on at some length talking about the guy they were going to arrest, showed his picture, recited his rap sheet. Just unrelated and racist. Just because that's the way they have their fun. I don't know. And just not only lies, outrageous lies. Claimed that Preddy, who they hadn't named yet, didn't have a name at that point, claimed that he approached the federal officers, brandishing a gun, and was about to kill them all in what he called, quote, an intended massacre. He mentioned only one shooter, not by name, of course. There were at least 2 shooters. There could have been, 5 or 6. News reports, as I said, are saying 10 shots. I think I heard 12 or 13. So this is the scene that he described, a complete and utter fiction. And then, interestingly, he opened it up to questions. He was talking to the press, of course. And the first question was, well, we've seen videos. There seems to be no evidence that he was brandishing a weapon. Could you elaborate on that? And it was only then that he falls back on the, this investigation is underway and that'll all be known. You just said that he came at you, intending to massacre the whole crowd. You just said that. But now he's backing off. It's under investigation. So that was question number 1. Question number 2 was basically a follow-up. Could you answer the first question? To which he pretty much just repeated himself and then exit stage right. Just ran out of the room. After 2 questions, which was really just one question, asked twice. Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security Secretary, repeated Greg Bavino verbatim. Said without evidence that this looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement. Just like she did with Rene Good. Just made up a story. Kristi Noem claimed without evidence that the man shot and killed by her officers was a domestic terrorist. Same thing she called Rene Good. These people are not only liars, they're utterly shameless. Her criminal trial just can't come soon enough. And the criminal trials for the whole lot of them. The media, I spent most of my time with the local CBS affiliate in Minneapolis, and they did an excellent job of covering breaking news as the day developed. But generally speaking, the media failed as usual. Here's the headline from the New York Post. Man waving gun at feds attempting to arrest illegal criminal migrant in Minneapolis shot dead by agent, DHS says. Wow. Okay. Let's just repeat their lies and make it the headline. But that's the New York Post. What's supposed to be mainstream reporting, NBC reported, quote, Preddy approached ICE officers. What? That's a lie. They repeated the DHS lie without correcting it. Preddy did not approach ICE officers. They approached him, holding nothing but a cell phone, recording the events. And at the time of his takedown, literally trying to help, asking people to step back. Yeah, there was a lot of both sidism in the media coverage. But you know what? There are not two sides to state fascist murder and the outrage that follows. That's not a both sides kind of a story. It's still not clear if he pulled the gun or pointed it. I don't know. That was late in the day, I heard a news anchor say that. After we'd seen all the videos of him with nothing but a cell phone, trying to help a woman who'd been assaulted by a Border Patrol agent. They wrestle him to the ground. At no time did he pull a gun. Not once. He was just trying to help this woman. They grabbed him, they wrestled him. That's when they discovered that he had, indeed, a holstered gun. Minnesota is an open carry state. So while a half a dozen agents have him on the ground, one of them beating him on the head with some implement. I couldn't see what it was. It was more than his hand, more than his fist. He was holding an implement in his hand, beating Preddy on the head. And then they see that he's got a gun holstered, concealed carry legal in Minnesota. They panic. They yell, "He's got a gun." An agent shoots him. Startled, they all back up. And then pop, 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 10 more shots. So Mayor Fry and Governor Walz of Minnesota and Minneapolis, once again in the limelight. I think they mostly said the right things on Saturday, except one area where I disagree with them. They kind of hold to the pretty standard rhetoric of when things are really starting to hit the fan, they ask people to go home or stay home. That's where I really disagree. No, don't stay home. Come on out, everybody. Everybody go out. Speaking of going out, there were over 50,000 people on the streets of Minneapolis on Friday, and not one single incident. No violence. None. Zero. Because, as you and I have discussed many times, when there is violence, it is always at the hands of right-wing agitators, troublemakers, or the cops themselves. So when 50,000 people can spend an entire day protesting in sub-zero temperatures, I think what that tells us is that the right-wing agitators are wuss snowflakes. They can't stand the cold. Now, the protesters are not the agitators. There is no need for crowd control. There's no need to disperse. When the mayor and the governor are saying things like, "Please don't destroy your own city." What? Who are you talking to? Read the room. They're not going to destroy their own city. When the cops declare an unlawful assembly, well, that means that this assembly is no longer safe. That's how they justify an unlawful assembly order. Well, we do it to protect the public. Protect the public. Not safe. Not safe for whom? The people of Minneapolis have not been violent for 1 minute, for 1 second of this awful saga. There was a car on fire on Saturday afternoon, and we learned it was because ICE shot tear gas into the car. So on Saturday, the murder happened a little after 9 a.m., about 9:05. And that stretch of about 3 hours between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m., that's when neighbors, protesters, and federal agents, and then local police called out. That's when they were all sharing the street. Nicollet between 26th and 27th primarily. And the federal agents basically escaped the scene. Took them a while, again, through tear gas and armored vehicles. They were out of the neighborhood by about 1 p.m. And then once they were gone, the crowd reclaimed the area, the whole intersection, the whole block. And the crowd grew, and there were no cops to be seen. Was there violence? Were there car fires? Were there gunshots? No. 100% peaceful. So that's how Saturday went. And then as the afternoon wore on, and the crowds grew, and evening descended, and the temperatures fell from -6 to -7 to -10, the crowds only grew. A makeshift memorial prayers, songs, chants, a massive memorial at a nearby park, all peaceful. We know who the violent ones are. As a social anarchist, I look at this, and it's just further proof. Abolish ICE, abolish borders, abolish the police. We don't need them. Do you think any right-wing agitator, if they had the cojones to come and try to agitate in that group, you think they would have lasted 5 seconds? The people are good. The House of Representatives just passed a massive funding bill, which includes another $64 billion for the Department of Homeland Security, $10 billion of which goes to ICE. 7 Democrats voted for the funding, and those 7 Democrats provided the votes to put it over the top. The Republicans didn't have the votes. Here they are. Primary them. Tom Suozzi of New York, Henry Cuellar of Texas, Don Davis of North Carolina, Laura Gillen of New York, Jared Golden of Maine, Vicente Gonzalez of Texas, and Marie Perez of Washington. Hakeem Jeffries, minority leader in the House, did not whip the vote, as they say. He did not advise these 7 Democrats to vote no. He didn't ask them to vote no. He didn't demand that they vote no. No, he did not whip the vote at all. He gave them free rein. Hakeem Jeffries has to go. The bill now moves to the Senate, where people were giving it a pretty good chance of passing there, even though it requires 60 votes, which means, I don't know, my math is bad, 10, 11, 12 Democrats needed. And up until Saturday, people were thinking, yeah, it'll probably pass. They're going to give DHS and ICE even more billions of dollars to murder people in the street, to arrest 5-year-old children, to beat people, to murder them in detention. There were over 30 last year who died in detention. But after this event now, after this murder of Alex Pretty, Chuck Schumer announced on Saturday that no Democrat will vote for DHS funding without reform. Now, we don't know exactly what reform means. Anywhere from banning chokeholds to banning ICE altogether, demanding that they shut down operations. I don't know what's going to happen in the Senate. But the events of Saturday, at the very least, forced Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to guarantee no Democratic votes without conditions. So what you and I always talk about. Lawmakers will never do the right thing unless and until they're forced to. There is no working with the regime. There's no compromise. There's no middle ground. There's no cooperation. There's no working with the fascist regime. Right now, it's nothing but an all-out fight. And for the Democrats of Congress, and especially for local and state governments, it means fighting with all the tools at your disposal. Democratic senators especially have great power to slow down the gears of Congress. Stop granting unanimous consent. Hold up nominations. Deny promotions and advancement. Remember when Republican Tommy Tuberville single-handedly put a hold on all military promotions for over a year and a half. A single senator under our system has enormous power. Democratic senators need to start using it. Local and state governments build up, fund independent parallel services, the services that federal programs are no longer providing, or they're threatening cuts to so-called blue states. It's already started. There's more to come. Yeah, these are the tactics of the so-called soft secession. Withhold federal tax payments, especially withholding federal tax payments, because, of course, blue states are the states that pay in. Its red states are the states that take from the federal budget. Total non-cooperation with the feds. An all-out barrage of lawsuits. Members of the House and Senate, state attorneys general, governors, city councils, anybody with any standing, get your lawyers busy. Flood the federal government with lawsuits. Force the courts to take a side. abolish the entire Department of Homeland Security. It was only established after 9/11, when lawmakers lost their damn minds, when they created an entire surveillance state. ICE was only created in March of the next year. Congress created it, they can destroy it. The executive branch, yes, has jurisdiction over ICE operations, but Congress established the agency. They can end it. They can defund. They can dismantle. ICE and CBP agents do not have absolute immunity, as claimed by the likes of Kristi Noem and J.D. Vance. Let's make that very clear. They have a certain amount of qualified immunity, like any other federal law enforcement, but that is absolutely limited, and it's especially limited for those agencies dedicated to migration. They have no powers over you and me. They're not law enforcement officers. They're immigration agents. There's a difference. So whatever level of immunity they have, it is severely limited. Again, flood the courts. These people have to face justice, and they absolutely will face justice. We're going to see to that. I'm seeing more and more in my media, in my feed, of people who no longer say, oh, this isn't who we are. No, they're recognizing this is exactly who we are as a nation. Not as a people, as a government. We live under a fascist government. There's no argument to be had anymore. There's no analysis or argument or is it or isn't it. We have to face the fact. And more people I've noticed seem to be facing the fact. There can be no doubt. We live under the thumb of a fascist regime. And we have to do everything in our power to fight it. Local and state governments, the courts, I've been through all of that. And for us, well, it means we take a page out of the Minneapolis playbook. They are amazing. The people of Minneapolis, I couldn't have more love for these people. They're doing it right. And it's organic. It's everybody. They're showing courage and love and spirit. Don't wait for an invitation. Don't wait for some great plan. It's all just happening in Minneapolis, and it's got to happen everywhere. And that means for all of us, for our families, for our neighbors. It means setting up mutual aid. It means boycotts. It means strikes. It means civil disobedience. It means disruption. Yeah, take a lesson from the people of Minneapolis. Be inspired. 50,000 of them strong in sub-zero temperatures on Friday. Tens of thousands, again, sub-zero temperatures, streaming into the streets after another murder, demanding justice. Also on Friday, 1,000 businesses shut down, the largest general strike in memory. All right, well, we'll see where this all goes. I sure don't know. I can't tell you. I love you. I'll see you out there.